This is your host, Steve from the back, coming at you again with another buck wild and crazy rant. Raw and unscripted as always. If you're new to this channel, I'm not even gonna wait. You guys just hit the bell icon, hit the like icon. Go into the channel thoroughly, go into the popular videos, go into the different areas of the channel and check out whatever content is on the channel. So this is your host, Steve from the back. So I made a video, and this video was not seen a lot because obviously this is a small channel. This channel is really unknown, but there's a bunch of cryptozoology channels out there. There's many how do I say it? Philosophical channels out there. Like, you guys have maybe heard of Mind Unveiled, you've heard of like Dark Waters, you've heard of the Cryptid brothers, you've heard of what's his name? I think it's Ryan Cropper. There's a lot of people that are they're spiritual people. Like Cryptid Roundtable, you've heard of, there's spiritual people out here. But my perspective is just my personal perspective. I'll admit, and this is probably going to throw a lot of people off or draw them away, I'm satanic, I'm left path leaning. So technically that makes me of the dark side of things. But, that's just who I am. I always look at it like there's always two sides to a coin. There's always two sides to a story. It doesn't mean that I'm like entirely an evil person or mean that I'm just like all bad as a person. I don't think. It's just where I come from, and I'm not a person who's ready to try to push against who or what I am. I accept who and what I am, and I just exist and just live like everybody else, just try to get what I should get out of life like any other person. But I don't need to change what I am, nor do I feel the need to convert or change to anything that I am. You know what I mean? But with all that being said, you guys, I made a video on, I think her name is Sevilla Irwin, and she's a person who is a lot of things, but she does art, and she does a very weird type of art because she draws eyewitness accounts, descriptions of cryptids. And this woman is an amazing artist, and the thing is, let's just be honest, you guys. A lot of us are out here working 9-to-5 jobs. The truth be told, many of us don't believe that any of this shit exists. I know this stuff exists. Most people they have no clue. They think this is all horseshit. They think it's a joke. They think it's just campfire stories. They think this is delusion. They think this is all types of things. But I know that this stuff is real to a degree, I actually know that, like, me even being alive, my very human self is proof that these things and this stuff is real. You know what I mean? And I'm going to talk more about that technically in this rant. So the thing is this: I made a video, and it was basically something about, like, who's this Irwin lady. And I went into some detail about, like, how, and this is something some people say, oh, there's no way, you're crazy. You guys always call people names and always judge people because you're ignorant of things that are facts, okay? And that's always been a thing. That has literally always been a thing. It's just like, if you were to go way, way, way back in time and try to explain quantum physics to a person, they would have said the same thing. But what I'm saying is, I explained how, like, what people don't understand even some people in this community of people who know about this cryptozoology thing and this phenomenon, this disclosure, ET, alien disclosure, this whole phenomenon that's a thing. The truth is, and I kind of describe this in a very blunt, very wild way that I always do, because I'm no scholar, I'm just a person, but I know things. I described how we as human beings are actually, we have some connection genetically. We're descendants to some degree to some cryptids, like Bigfoot. For instance, we have genetic connections to that. That's the funny thing. So it's like, you know, the asinine assumption that we are, quote, separate or so different. Like, we are different, but the assumption that our genetic strain, as what we call, quote, I use the quotation marks, human beings, is like so astronomically different from these cryptids is an illusion, and it's an assumption. And the thing about it, which I actually don't know how to explain this, but like, for instance, when you have a genetic test, or you go to, have genetic testing or whatever, what they're not accounting is they look at your DNA, they look at your like mitochondrial DNA and all this stuff, and they don't understand that. What they don't account for is the fact that they only don't understand what's really going on because there was no actual teachings, foundation, basis, or research that predates what we know now that would include sheer proof that you are connected to XYZ and so on being encrypted, right? They would not know that. There's no way that they would be able to know that, because what their basis of what they have a name for everything, like whatever cell, whatever trait, whatever. The thing is, that is all, that system, that way that they've learned is all based on something that was made with missing truths. So they will never connect the dots. They're not taught to connect the dots. They're taught, geneticists are taught basically a certain thing, and they are not taught to think outside the box, so they will always miss what is actually going on. They will never be able to really know what is going on. It's just like the origins of mankind. There will always be a push by wicked people to hide what actually has gone on and is going on and what is. There's always there's always an intention to hide that, to hide what actually is really going on, what has always going on, and that's just the way things are. And whatever, this rant is not really about like trying to say, oh, well, you need to really look, you need to research, and you need to open your heart and open your mind, and I'm not really gonna so much go there. But what I'm saying is, the thing is this, guys. The thing is that, and it's hilarious too, because like, when you start looking at the second that you see a genuine eyewitness description of a cryptid, like genuinely, if you use your, like, the same rational brain that you use to identify any other thing, like you look at dogs, you look at people, you look at primates, you look at your cousin, your auntie, the person next door, the black people that you know, the white people that you know from Eastern Europe, you look at the Asian people that you know, you look at the races that would seem opposite to you, but that are like part of your bloodline back in your family, and you realize the like physical similarities, and you really can look at people and see like all these similarities to things, just like breaking them down under a microscope. And it's funny because it's hilarious because it's almost like a childlike simplicity that exists in these things. but that goes so over people's heads that they do not realize what is actually going on, what's right in front of them. So they're thinking one thing because, like I said in the beginning, you're used to getting up in the morning, you're used to your day to day. You don't think about these things. You just live in, it's almost like you live in a bubble. You live in a realm of thought that does not ask the question to ask a certain question. You just do the same program thing over and over, and you're very fast, and you do your job, you go to work, you go home. You don't realize that, like, if you look at people, these people are actually weird descendants of many things. You know what I mean? I'll just put it like that. We've descended from many things, and there's interbreeding and intermingling with many of these things. And it's hilarious how when you can look at the face, it's like the literal, you look at the face of an eyewitness description of a cryptid, and then you look at certain people, and it's so clear that you're looking at, how do I say this? You're looking at basically a next door neighbor to something that people think is so outside of themselves, but is really just a distant, like, it's like a genetic cousin almost. Like, it's just another person that, to the common population and the common knowledge of people in modern day, is deemed to be fantasy and not to be real, but it actually is. I know some of you guys, you've met people who, you've seen a classic, like, even on an attractive level, you've seen like an attractive woman, attractive Eastern European woman with very high cheekbones, a very swarthy complexion, dark hair, and has a look to them where they look like they look very predatory almost in a way. Like, they look like a cat, you know what I mean? The high cheekbones, broad, strong jaw, features, long hair, Caucasian, but of a swarthy, dark complexion, not dark, but, darker than the average, a tan complexion. And you're looking at this person in, if you, this is what I mean. Like, when you start looking at these, like, cryptid creatures and these, eyewitness accounts, and then you look at these indigenous people that are literally indigenous to the same place that these even European people are coming from, and you realize when you look at them, you're looking at this, it's like you're looking at a spitting image. You're looking at a spitting image. It's a spitting image of something that, how do I say this, was features were passed down from something, and passed down and watered down, and then you get this modern human being that still, genetically and on every level, still came from what it came from. So what I'm saying is, it's basically, we are the very thing that we think is outside of ourselves, because we came from that. All of us did. That's the crazy thing. It's like, it'd be hard to find a person that didn't have some genetic ties to one of these things. So, with all that being said, I'm trying to tell you guys, like, this world is such a farce. It's such a matrix. It's like such a made up, phony, like, scam. You know what I mean? That has you. The scam is this. The scam is basically that you don't make the connections. Like, you don't ever connect the dots. Someone say, "Oh, it's not fucking conspiracy theory. It's the truth. There's nothing conspiratorial about it." It's about as damn conspiratorial about when people say that, oh, well, dog breeds were bred from wolves and then, like, interbred and inbred, and then they were basically bred to be so far from something that they came from, to the point that it's almost indistinguishable, but you can distinguish that it came from something. It's the same thing with us, you guys, but people don't see it. People just aren't noticing this. Some people notice, but a lot of people very well know, but most people do not know this. They don't notice this, It escapes them. It's actually comical. It's hilarious in a way because it's like, you know, you live your life as a person and then you die. And it's like, I just wonder, like, when you die, how could you could never hold up you could never hold up the prideful facade or the prideful arrogance that you've had at first when you were on this plane of existence, because then thrown into that place, there's no escaping like certain truths. You know, there's no distraction, there's no job, there's no work, there is no green money, there is no carnal things in front of you so often that you can't have enough time to come to the grips of with the truth. Because that's the thing about the truth. The truth is just a thing that is undeniable. The truth is something that supersedes any type of power that you could imagine. Any type of power I can imagine. The truth is something that is infallible. It's just one of those things. You can't make a truth a lie. You can't change it. It's something that you can only deny. You only have that choice to either deny it or accept it. Because it remains true whether you accept it or if you deny it. If that makes sense. That's what I'm trying to tell you guys. I'm trying to express that. You know, like, people laugh, people think it's a joke, people think, oh, ha ha hee hee, that's hilarious. Like, yeah, okay, you know, yeah, okay. It's like, you know, that's always the response. It's like, okay, they don't give it any thought. Like, but it's okay. It's okay. Like, nothing really is gonna change. You know, nothing's gonna change for the better or for the good. I don't think really. But the thing is, this is something that I speak on this channel because I want us to understand that, like, you know, it's not that we're living in a world with monsters, like someone like maybe Dark Waters would say, or someone else would say. No disrespect to Dark Waters, but, you know, I would imagine he may say something like that. You know, the people like to use the word but what they don't understand is that we are the monsters. You know, that gorgeous girl that, you know, like I said, that is, you know, has the long brown hair, and she has that strong yet feminine build in that, you know, model-esque jawline, in that swarthy complexion, in that gorgeous European face, in the, you know, those cat-like eyes and all that stuff. That woman, his genetics is a lot closer to one of those creatures like these Sasquatch that you think that are to some degree of even like an Asianic descent. You know, she probably has a lot of that DNA, probably. You know, that's what I'm saying. Like, these chicks that, you know, look so good, and they, you know, they're just gorgeous and they're strong and they're fertile and all these things, and they just, you know, drive us wild and all that stuff. These women, that's what's so funny. Those women, probably way back, their genetics are coming from something that you would think is a monster. You know what I mean? That's just the honest truth. You know, the truth be told, they probably literally cannibalize some of their own ancestors and cannibalize some of your own ancestors. You know what I mean? And your ancestors cannibalize some of her ancestors. That's the real truth that you don't understand. These are fucking apes eating each other. These are apes. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's really boiling down to. You know, these are cat-like beings. These are hairy, cat and dog-like, ape-like beings. These are freaking these are monsters. But the truth of the matter is that we are still those same monsters. It's just we're I wouldn't even say evolved, but we are changed to such a degree that now we find ourselves in a timeline, if you will, with very watered down genetics. We are in a timeline with those genetics we have now, that we are scrawny, hairless beings walking around, not hairless, but you get what I'm saying. We are little scrawny beings walking around working 9 to 5 jobs like a slave. You know, we're pulling all types of stunts, we're doing all types of things, and we're scrambling around, and we're squabbling, and we're scrambling, and we're doing all these little things that we're in a fear mentality, and we're not coming together. For instance, like we're not coming together and trying to plan and plot and do a certain thing, but we are all separated, and we're scrambling, and we're running around like little worker ants, working our asses off, not giving enough time to think about anything, working 9 to 5 jobs and all that shit. And that's what we're doing. And we're not giving any thought to our ancestors. We're not giving any thought to like where we actually came from. We're not giving any thought to the possibility that maybe we are descendants of the very things that we are afraid of, or that we talk about campfire stories and all this shit and stuff. Some of us know, though. Like, I'll give credit to a lot of people who are indigenous. A lot of indigenous people know that very well. They even themselves, because some separate themselves like, oh, those were the things that used to torture our people. They used to do this. We used to have wars with these things, whatever. Some of them know that, like, you actually interbred at one point, and your bloodline is part of that because their DNA is inside of you. Like, you actually came from them at some point, and then you were removed, and more human DNA was pumped into you, and more DNA was pumped into your ancestors to the point to where you look like what you look like now. So it's almost indistinguishable that is your relative, but you think that you're a human and you call them a monster. But really, that being is one of your ancestors. That's one of your relatives. Wherever bloodline they came from, or whatever star system, however they got here, even if they're like an extraterrestrial element or something that came here, you're still part of them. So you can't. It's like, why are you gonna? It's like calling someone a racial slur. It's like, you can't. Why are you gonna really? You can't call them a certain thing when that's what you are. But you're so disconnected from what you came from that you can't understand or see, and you don't want to see that that's what you still are. And the thing is, this is the spiritual part of it. You are so still that if your spirit is, because you're still a spirit being. You're a person, but you have a soul. You know what I mean? This is a crazy thing, you guys. This shit is crazy, not in a bad way, but it's crazy because we live in this world to where we've just forgotten we've forgotten everything. It's just like how the dinosaurs went extinct. You know what I mean? And now in museums, it's just, okay, now the dinosaurs were extinct. But instead, that's more acceptable. It's like we accept that we acknowledge that they were real. We acknowledge that they weren't extinct. Okay, with this, it's a similar thing, but it's to the point to where there's no acknowledgement that these things existed. But the thing is, they still exist. They didn't go extinct. They never went extinct. That's the funny thing. They did not go extinct. These things are still here. Okay, they're still here. We are still here, and we are connected to them. So technically, we are them. In a way, we still are them. But, see, this is something I just had to rant on because, this is a thing. This has always been a thing, you guys. This is a thing. Funny thing about these beings and us is that we live in a world, in this society, to where we are far more less spiritually adept. Our spiritual abilities have been I don't know how to say, caged, if you will. That's a good word for it. It's caged. It's like someone put a cap on it, put not a cap, but put a top over it, to where it can't it can't grow, it can't move, it doesn't even touch the surface of what it could possibly be capable of. Whereas these things, more or less, are just running free, just running wild. They're like, they've never basically had to temper themselves, nor were they controlled enough to be tempered so much to that degree. They don't have an institution that tempers them like that. Where as us, we start out as children, we have like abilities, and then those abilities are basically smothered because they're not grown, nor do they have the opportunity to grow, or if there's any culture or really anything, any incentive or initiative to grow those abilities, to open that door. It's more or less we're just smothered, stunted, and then we become adults where we're taught that we, this doesn't exist, that doesn't exist, and that door is more and more shut and more and more shut and more and more shut until it's almost astronomically hard to even try to open that. So, with all this being said, I realized you guys need to realize that a thing you can do is you need to start looking at these cryptids differently. Number one, you need to look at them way differently. You need to look at yourself differently, and you need to look at everything around you differently. And you need to look at forces in things that are spiritual. You need to look at them differently, and you need to have a more open mind. Like, your mind can't be closed, because that's kind of like the killer in the first place, is the closed mind, which is infectious, which causes whole entire civilizations and communities to be able to be controlled easier. Like I said before, if you get enough people in the right place and time and thing, and it could even be just 20 people, they can help each other to such a degree to where, how do I say this? They make each other's lives, you're not saying that they are carefree, but what I'm saying is they make each other's lives easier in they have a network, and they are dedicated, and they're on one accord, as they say. The Christians actually get this concept to be on one accord. They're on one accord, so they're now functioning as a unit. You know what I mean? They're functioning as a team. So, like I said, that concept alone is something that you need to understand, that that's a thing. Okay? You need to think outside of the box. You need to understand that in this life, basically, when you think in a programmed mode, you stunt your actual ability that has the power to create certain things, like through whatever means. Think of it like this way. Think of it like if a person who created some of these businesses, like, Google, MySpace, Facebook. Think of if a person think of if a person was so close-minded that they never took the chance to make the moves physically and mentally to create these things. Let's say if they just decided, somebody else will do it. Let's say if they just said, that's a dumb idea, right? Let's say if they said, shit like that doesn't exist. See, that's my point. You guys need to think differently. People need to start understanding these things, and you need to start healing from the trauma that has been forced upon you by evil and wicked people that want to separate you from what you come from, and they want to separate you from the rest of this world. They want to keep you in a bubble, and they want to keep you in chains. And I did a rant in a video kind of that was about this, and I think I said something about, protect magical beings, video like that, where I was saying, one of the most wicked and evil things that people do in this day that, Christians don't talk about this because they're deluded themselves. truly magical and enchanted beings, beings that are, how do I say this, divine in a way. These divine beings are demonized. Not only are they demonized, but they're treated as if they don't exist. They're taught that they don't exist. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that action and that trend and that thought process and that, that programming is something that we have to get rid of. That's something that we have to get rid of, you guys. It's something that we actually have to destroy, we have to get rid of. And I hate to say this because it sounds a certain way, and it sounds violent, and it sounds, I'm not saying like hurt people, but I'm saying you have to have a violent like determination that you destroy in yourself, because it's not like you're reaching out to other people, but you're trying to destroy, you have to destroy it in yourself, that you are programmed to do this violent and heinous act of basically psychologically killing these beings and yourself by trying to completely not acknowledge that they even exist. Not acknowledge that a man as a being is a spiritual being, that you yourself is a being that is also spiritual, and that even if you don't even ever think of even anything spiritual, that your function, that all these little stupid molecules that are moving around and all these things that are holding your body together, that are atoms and all this stuff, that you don't understand that all of that stuff is only held together, is only really in existence, and that the very thing that you call being alive, which is very easy to turn into being dead because you're not that powerful. None of us are. You have to understand that all that you see and you perceive that's going on is nothing separate from what the spirit is. You have to understand that it's all the same thing. So what I'm saying is, you have to start thinking completely different. You have to totally flip it on its head, right? And it also gives you, to some degree, I'm not saying fully, but I'm saying to some degree, you have a sense of accountability. And that accountability that's there, or I'm going to say accountability. I'm saying more of like a choice. Now you're posed with the question, do you want to do what the right thing is, and you want to cultivate this question, this open door, so to speak, or do you want to just close it? Do you want to turn your back on it? Do you want to turn a blind eye to it? Which is just fine, if that's what your choice is. Or do you want to move forward, and do you want to actually open your heart, mind, and soul to this? Do you want to actually acknowledge the fact that now you're given the choice to do something that is right, and you may feel a little bit accountable? That's all. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to change anything. But I'm just giving you I'm giving you that choice, because some people never would have given you the choice. They don't say anything. They just do the same thing every day. They talk about the same things every day. You see the same thing every day. You hear the same thing out of people's mouths every day. No one comes to you. There is no, how do I say this? There is no, what's the word for it? There is no like day of reckoning. That's what it is. There's no like explosion, so to speak. There's nothing comes in your path at a point in place that questions anything. And that's a problem. That's a problem. Like nothing's questioning you, nothing's challenging you, no one's giving you an option. No one's it's like I said, I always talk about people sweeping things under the rug. It's like, well, I'm thinking, well, why are you sweeping things under a rug? Why are you not addressing them? That's all I'm doing, you guys. So, with all that being said, you guys need to think about this. You guys need to understand all that is going on. You guys need to understand what this is. You guys need to understand the seriousness of this matter. And you also need to understand that, like, a lot of the evils that are in the world and a lot of the evil that it just is in existence, I'm not saying there's like a quick fix, but what I'm saying is a lot of the start to start like healing a lot of this trauma and evil things that goes on is to do exactly what I'm talking about right here now. You know, it's because people don't ever look in this direction. People do not go in this direction. People don't go down this path. It's easier for someone to see something that they don't understand or that they think is unknown, that they think is a cryptid, that they think is this, that they think is of darkness, so quotation marks. It's easy for you to look at something and call that your enemy and say that it's the root of all the problems and all the evil, and then say that and then think that you're going to go on along with the rest of your life with a dogma, especially like, I'm just going to say, like, you know, Christian dogma, this type of dogma, whatever, what do you call Hindu, a Methodist, a Muslim, even all these type, you know, Protestant, Catholic. But what you fail to realize is you're still playing into the deluded part of the game, in delusion, in deception, because you are not stepping outside of what you are as a, quote, man. You are still in an institution that is man-made, that is of slavery, that is of bondage, that is still in the realm of what is trying to control you. You are not being brave enough to step outside of that and go where, quote, the, quote, monsters are, and understand that you are those monsters. And now what it's time to do is to face up your wrongs that you've done, to face up what, you know, we've done as a race and that's evil as humans in history, and realize that, look, where the bridge has to be made, it has to be on a base of that. Now you're opening up to think outside of what you think. That you have, that's where it is. That's where you have to find yourself. You know, if you really want to start making change and moving on, you know, if you really as an individual want to start change, but really this is to change the course of history in humanity, period. You know, that's what it is. And that's what it actually is. You know, someone will say, there's no way. No, it's not that there's no way. No, that is what it is, you guys. That is what it is. Sorry. You know, you wanted something different. I don't know. You wanted something that was more appealing to you. That's not the truth. The truth isn't always appealing. It usually isn't appealing. This is what it is, you guys. This is your host, Steve from the back. Until next time, I hope you guys have a good one.